Hello everyone. We're going to start our second Terroir talks. A couple of weeks ago, we talked to Marina Mascarino of the winery Punset in Piemonte, and this week we have the honor to host Philippe Pacalet from Burgundy. Just briefly, a couple words about the domain. The wines are known for their aromatics and finesse, and to me and so many people, they redefine words like femininity, balance, and even sensuality. I think that the wines make a great study of terroir. His winemaking techniques vary little from one wine to the next, so the differences in terroir between the 30 wines is striking. Um, it does not own any vineyards, yet it is one of the most sought after producers in Burgundy. And we ourselves return to terroir in California have such a hard time meeting the demand. Um, the wines are defined by no sulfur during fermentation and aging, all cluster maceration, and we will talk about those details, winemaking details during the conversation. It is. We've been working with Philippe Pacalet for roughly 6 months now, and it's such a pride as an importer to be importing those wines because there were wines I was drinking before and wines that are really defining, I think, Burgundy to me and to a lot of people. I will always remember the last birthday with my girlfriend. We opened a bottle of Nuit Saint-Georges 2009, and she took a glass, smelled the wine, and talk to me and say, "Are we importing this?" So, bonjour Philippe Pacalet. You
Hello.
are joining us from the winery. Um,
Yeah.
when we talked to each other last week, you told me that this conversation was going to be between a couple of trips for you, one to Denmark and one to Hungary. So first,
Yeah.
how was it? How was it?
In Denmark, it was very nice. People were very enthusiastic with the wines. We have, in- yeah, we're increasing the sale and the numbers of people who are getting more and more and like our wines is increasing. So it was very nice, and also with the food, which is Danish are very passionate. You can say they are quite Latin. Yeah.
What's the wines in the natural wines in Denmark are very hip right now. It's very a lot of it's getting a lot of attention from a lot of people. Why do you think Denmark and maybe there's some comparison to make with the market in the US? How do you see the differences and the similarities between the two?
First, it's a small country. People are, yeah, they're quite sophisticated, and they are also in the food. They are in the say they make a lot of experience with molecular food, new experiences in food, and they have a very different sort of matching in food with green vegetables, seafood, meat. So they are very open, and for natural wine is good because it's a new breed of course there is all inside natural wine, but it's somewhere a breed for wine, and there is a very good thing, and I think Danish they understand that.
Do you think that the people in Denmark or like Nordic countries, Scandinavian countries, are some of the people that are the most into natural wines in terms of the people you've seen in because you're selling wines in Japan also in Europe in US. And
Yeah,
why is that? Well, you think that there is an evolution compared to 5 years ago?
yeah, of course. Now it's been 12 years was selling wine there. Of course, today there is an evolution. I think for the fifth last years, yeah, Japan it was I think starting 11 years ago, and many sommelier, many professionals are very interesting, and Another point which is important also in Denmark to notice, of course, we forget. It's they're a small country, but the agriculture was very involved in using chemicals, and now for some years there is a return to maybe to terroir, of course, but a return to healthy product and to better things, more and craft, So wine is in this move, no?
No, totally. So we let's backtrack a bit, and obviously, so your wines we can find them in many countries. I like to kind of backtrack a bit and see what's how Philippe became Philippe Pacalet in a way. What so did you were you born and were you raised in Beaujolais or in Burgundy?
Yeah, in fact, I was raised in Beaujolais, but one part of my family is also from Burgundy. So I think maybe my heart is and was in Burgundy. It's the reason why I go back. But for my for a long time, I would like to do what I'm doing. So
So you and your parents were, because obviously one thing that defines you for a lot of people is that you were, at least the beginning, is that you the nephew of Marcel Lapierre.
yeah, of
What
course.
your parents were also in the wine business, or that
No,
was just
no,
part of
no,
your family?
no. It's just my uncle. My mother is the sister of Marcel Lapierre. She wasn't in the wine business
So how was it to? Did you connect very early on with Marcel
because,
Lapierre?
in fact,
Talk to him.
my parents were working a lot, and I was raised by my grandfather mainly. And of course, I was after most of the time in contact with. I was living with my uncle also, so I
So you spent quite
was
a bit of time with him.
yeah.
When was your first, I guess, memorable experience of either talking or tasting or seeing something? What was your first kind of reference and like memory of that?
Yeah, of course I was raised there. So when I was a teenager, I was working there. But I can say the first time I was decided to do that, really, it was in 1985. Yeah, 21 years old. So I could say that it's a start for me. This time was with my uncle,
Hmm.
and after that, my uncle presently introduced me Jules Chauvet, with who I worked some years. It was also another step.
And to,
Yeah. Yeah, you hear me? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's good. Tu juste essaie de, parce que je sais que tu appuies un petit peu sur les touches sur le clavier, essaie de l'éviter parce qu'en fait on entend vachement.
D'accord, ok.
Entre parenthèses. Ok. And Jules Chauvet, what was the? Can you summarize to people listening to us a bit what was the teaching of Marcel Lapierre on one side and Jules Chauvet on the other side? What was the
Yeah.
similarities and the differences between the two?
Chauvet was, of course, at this time it was at the end of his life. It was like we call that in France, old France, huh? Vieille France. It was negociant, but also it was someone who was involved in research for many years, and he was one of the inventors of the Inao glass, also, and which is important for us, he established how to make wine enologically partly speaking. He established the principles of the vinification without sulfur. Yeah.
And something that's then so Marcel Lapierre was doing pretty much I mean, Marcel Lapierre was influenced by Jules Chauvet. There was like so Jules Chauvet was older, but like for like how many years? Like what was the difference of age between the two?
Yeah, Jules Chauvet was dead in 1989 with 83 years old, so
Yeah, it was
was
like a
very
generation.
old.
Yeah.
But my uncle in the last 70s, 78, maybe 79, was yeah, met Mr. Chauvet, and so my uncle wanted to go ahead and to make a good wine with the terroir. So the meeting was very important for him too.
For
And
people who are
after,
listening, the picture here is the picture of Jules Chauvet.
yeah,
What's your connection with those teachings? Was like you connected with like personally, like right away with it? Like, is that something you understood at the beginning, and it took a while? I'm sure. What was it? When did you feel that that's the direction you want to take?
yeah, I told you around in 85, 21 years old, because of course I like wine, I like tasting, I like fragrances, but I am a scientific, so Chauvet, Chauvet for me was someone very important because I like the natural things, but it's important for me to explain them and to check them to repeat, you know, because we have to repeat every year to make wine,
What
for
was your
example. So
first,
it was very important.
yeah, what was your first? So you worked for Priori Rock, you know, like so roughly from 1990 to 2000.
Yeah,
What? So
yeah, Mr.
how
Rock.
did you? I mean, so that was your first job in a first like serious job. Like you've
Yeah,
been working for your uncle at the beginning.
first,
Yeah.
yeah, it was my first sales job. Yeah, just after my civil service. Yeah, in organic organization called Nature et Progrès, yeah, where I was there for 1 year and a half. It was very interesting. After quick, my job was to work with Mr. Rock trust me, and yeah, it was a very important experience for me because in 10 years you can learn your job.
And so you ended up being like a GM for the winery, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you grew the
You
ladder.
need the
Like what's? I mean, I'm sure at the beginning you were not doing the same.
yeah, Mr. Rock at this time searched someone who was knowledge was a knowledge graduate, but also someone who know how to make wine, good wine, in different way that industry wants. So it was a very nice experience for me. Yeah. At this time, I was working till with a microscope to check how the fermentation were going. So it was another interesting step for me. Yeah.
And that was obviously like in a similar world and with Marcel Lapierre or what came after. Like they're working in a very very much like natural way. Um, so the owner of Priori Rock is the he's a nephew of Lalou Leroy, right? So he also owns,
Yeah.
so he's a part owner of
Yeah.
DRC.
In certain, in a yeah, in certain view, certain way, I was in this place. It was yeah, it was one of the top of Burgundy because there is connection with Romanée Conti, there is connection with Lalou by family. Yeah, I never worked there, but it was interesting because this place you have a different view of the thing, and it's very important.
Did you ever felt like a bit disconnected from in a way, like from the rest of Burgundy? Or in Burgundy is well known for super, quality and artisanal producers, but also by négociants. There is, I mean, did you feel disconnected? Do you feel like oh, I'm so lucky to be in that environment? What was your connection with the rest of the rest of
Yeah,
Burgundy?
I have good Burgundy people looks like separate, but in fact that they are not so individual. Of course, you have some people, but my relationship with some producers and big negotiations is not bad. It's quite fair, and it's you have always people, but on average, it's quite okay for me, and I never felt so bad for that.
So I've been reading a lot in the last 6 months about you and the philosophy and different blog articles, especially, for example, the blog Wine Terroir, which is one of the best blogs out there. And I was rereading things that I already knew from our conversations, but also like things that were really interesting. Um, the For example, one thing that I think is very interesting is like for a long time, like personally when I'm a bit younger, but like when I started in the wine business, like it felt like people say often you had to be estate owner to have a great reputation places, and especially in Burgundy. I mean, what I think is very interesting about you is that you, like some people say, including Bertrand from Wine Terroir, is a homeless winemaker, and but actually, like people, want would fight to get you wines. So it's something that has changed in the last like 5, 10 years, 15 years. Like people like have been sourcing more wines without owning land, and it's something that's came from the obviously the prices and maybe the trends of
Yeah,
fashion.
yeah. First, what I'm doing is what I want to do for a long time. I like to. I don't know. In fact, I know how to make wine. Maybe I have gift for that, and I like thanks to existence. But so I one time I say, yeah, life make me that I didn't inherit of vineyards. So I have to find a way to make wine and to be what I want to be. So of course there is the classic profile, the classic line to follow, but I never follow a line like this, and life put me in a condition to, yeah, I have to struggle myself to find my way. But I think I show to the life that I can say that my motivation were real and honest and passionate, and not linked to star system or just money. So
When was the I mean the first moment when you felt like, okay, I don't own vineyards, I didn't inherit vineyards, but I really want to make my own wines. When did it happen?
yeah, well, in the mid 90s, and in fact we talked before for a long time with my uncle in Beaujolais, because this time we were interested to make maybe other crew, but we were talking that we are not going to buy all the vines we want to make the wine because life is too short. And after that, I went to Burgundy and I had a job, but I said for me the only way to get free to make the wine like I want is not to buy them first. It's to rent to make like the things I do that you know I can buy them in the second step, but life is so short.
So
So
so the first what was the first I guess parcels and appellations that you worked with?
in 2001, the Gevrey, hein, Gevrey-Chambertin, Charles-Chambertin, Gevrey-Premique-le-Perrière, Somme-Pommard, Meursault, Corton-Charlemagne. I had Aligoté also this times.
So they all arrived pretty
No,
much in the same time, like the first year you were waiting maybe to get a few appellations that you could work with and before starting.
yeah, in fact, I was working before that because it takes time. But yeah, I think I started with 10 or 12 appellation, which is not bad. And in Denmark, we drank
Yes.
my importers. Let us taste tasted 2001 Java Chambertin, which is very interesting for me and for the people.
So it's actually between parentheses before we go more in depth and talk about the different appellations. So right now you have a few bottles left of that 2001, like for example Java Chambertin, like you just talked about.
Unfortunately,
You drank all of them.
yeah, I have some wines started with 2004
Okay.
because before it was difficult. But my customer are very pleased with me, and sometimes we open bottle and can taste. In Japan, we have tasted quite few old vintages. First one, and they show very well. They have the demonstration that the wines, the way I made them, are not weak, but they age very well without artifice.
So I mean, in the last 10 years, because so you started like 10, 12 years ago now, under like Philippe Pacalet. Would you say that's the way that you're making the wine has changed, and how was the evolution into wine making?
Yeah, of course. The my strategy, my what I want to do is the same. But of course, the way to reach it has changed. Has changed. I think I perform a lot in the aging process for the last 4 years. Vinification in culture, I would say it's quite the same than before. Of course, we have to adapt every vintage, but where we perform the best, the most, sorry, it's the aging process. And it's very important because after, I think maybe many people, they make a mistake between storing wine in cask or aging wine in cask. It's very different.
In what way?
You hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, in what way is that so different?
In what way? Yeah, in what way? The presentation of the wine, the conservation, the precision of the aromas, the stability, the limpidity, many things which are very important.
So the coming from the first plots in 2001.
Yeah,
So today you roughly make 5,000 cases a year.
yeah,
I received the email that Monica, your wife, sent me earlier. It varies between the different appellations. It varies between the different vintages. Um, how was the evolution? I've been reading about the process. You said in the past that so you're dropping some appellations as you go further, and you get some appellations you've been wanting to get, and you've been waiting for, and so you want to like 5,000 cases is roughly the number that you want to stay at, so that you can stay artisanal and stay focused on quality.
yeah. I would say I would like to stay small. Nice. English, huh? Small is beautiful. Yeah, of course. I make 50,000 bottles on average. I would say I could go to 60,000, but I would like to find very qualitative things, vines, you know. But, uh, I can control, I can manage like this, and I'm happy. And it's the way I'm feeling good. So I would like say, I would say it's the side I want to keep.
So that's because you have a personal, obviously, influence and on all the everything that relates to making the wine, like sourcing the wines. You want to keep it that way. You don't want to delegate
Yeah,
because it's very personal. You want to see, to have the influence, your personality, have a direct connection with the wine.
yeah. Of course, I delegate things. I have people around me, but people they buy my wine, so I have to also to be professional and to be there. Like not in kitchen, in cooking. Many people are. Some of them they do the same. They want to be there. They want to be. It's the way they work. And like this.
What's the difference between a business and being an artisan in many levels? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
What's we have a question actually from Steen Oman from Denmark actually, who is asking about the you might see the question on the chat box. Did you work with this same like low sulfur approach when you were working at Priori Rock?
yeah, yeah. Of course. Yeah, yeah. And I
Since,
could say that many cuvées were without sulfur.
hmm.
Sometimes even in bottling.
Coming
At
back
the
to
beginning, at the
yeah,
beginning,
go
it
ahead.
was. I can say it was more extreme experiences. But one moment you have to make a balance between experiences and uh, and professionalism, and also yeah,
So the
you have to
extremism
decide.
was because they want to do that to be even more extreme, or because you personally
No, I
wanted
think
that?
it's because at this time I was more like this.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would like to push more. Now I push, but in different places. No,
So you're a bit more reasonable.
yeah, not reasonable, but I found the limit. I'm like a kid. I found some limit, so I understand where I could go, where I couldn't go, and also I have to respect my customer because able to pay a price for a bottle, but they should have wine inside.
So what's can you give us one or two examples of that extremism? I mean, so basically like even less sulfur, like to a point where the wine was not balanced, like to I mean that's what I hear from what you say.
Yeah, the problem is, yeah, you can have a problem in vinification. Mostly when you start with vines who are not balanced, because we work with the wild yeast, so you can have a problem there. The other problem you can have is if you don't want to make filtration, no adding sulfur or low rate of sulfur, you have to yeah, you have to try to have a clear wines. Instead of that, you are going to have problems because the wine is not enough clear. You are going to have a microbiologic problem. You are going to have also aromatic problems. Understand?
Yeah. Okay, so the coming from the 2001 period of time, and today I put in the notes here in the bottom right of the screen the different appellations that we're working with right now, and so you're roughly making for producing like 30 appellations, right, in total?
In 2001,
No, 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 today,
today, yeah, the 31, yeah,
31.
yeah,
What has been
yeah.
the evolution? Which directions have you gone to more? Like, I mean, Côte d'Or is obviously where we are here. What are the wines, some of the wines that you dropped, and what are the wines that have been more recent acquisitions for the grapes that you're very excited about?
Yeah, for example, for Georges Chambertin, I he released some vineyards from other which were more qualitatives. Uh, Sometimes we could have break in contract we had, so because misunderstanding problems, and but in 2001 I started with 20,000 barrel, and I increased till 25, 26, 206, 205, sorry, and after we were quite balanced, and I found after Echezo, some Von Romanet, some other appellation, which added something to my list, to my pleasure of making wine. But in terms of quantity, not a lot. Right?
So I want to ask a few questions and go like more in details in terms of the. I'm going to put some maps here. That's so I already started. We went from a general map of Burgundy to a more close-up map of the Côte de Nuit, the northern part of the Côte d'Or. Talking about, for example, the so we're going to go to Saint-Georges here, Chassagne, Beaune. So what's first the question I was going to ask you is that so you've been sourcing those vignettes you yourself, or you've been like also like using the help of. I read that you had a broker for some years at the beginning, like to help you source some wines, and also there was a word of mouth.
Yeah, to help me to find the vineyards. It's a long process. I have I don't know, a broker, a courtier, for a long time. But it's a long approach because many other people want the vine, but it's we we spend, and I spend 30% of my time to maintain good relationship, and also to try to find some beautiful things.
How do you make your decision, like in terms of pricing, in terms of what's how do you make what was the like we try to imagine we in your shoes, how do you make a decision?
To take a vineyard, I mean.
Hmm.
Hmm. uh, Checking the vines. Uh, we never made uh, something a contract in one times. Many times it takes 3, 4, 5 years. So I have time to check the grapes, and after for the decision, it's the quality of the plant, quality of the soil, the exposition, many tiny details.
Are there
You
any
know.
are there any appellations that you would not want to work with, or do you want to
Yeah,
focus on something?
of course, I decided to limit. I don't want to make all, but in Gevrey, I am still open to the first crew or some grand cru. In the appellation I'm making wine, I'm open to open the list or find a new vines. Things like this. To It's more to improve the quality of the wine I produce, and also to make my wine list better.
I think that we often bring you wines, and we've been introducing them to the California market for 6 months. Um, there is, like I was saying in the introduction, a striking difference between the appellations, even for sub appellations, and that's what makes your wines so appealing and so interesting in many ways. Um, if you were going to introduce someone who knows Burgundy but who doesn't know your wines, which appellations would you pick to show that distinction? Like if you had like
Uh,
three or four whites, three or four reds, and if you were going to educate someone about your wines.
yeah. Uh, first, first it depends if you like the more round and fruity wines, or more or wines more slim. with shocking characters, and I would say less attractive. But I could say that yeah, Omar, Chambol, Terroir, Chambertin, many times they are more easy for people which are well who have not big experiences. In whites, you have Merceau, you have Puligny, with these two wines. And after you can go ahead. It's like with music. You can refine your taste. You can identify better you can identify better your taste.
But like for example, like what the first time that so we decided on importing new wines, we picked different. We picked the Gevrey Chambertin, but also the Perrier, the Bel Air, the Lavaux Saint Jacques, because it seemed to me that they're right next to each other. In the same time, the definition of those wines is so different, and I think that's where people like who love Burgundy want to see like the difference, subtle difference between sub appellations like this. Can you tell us a bit more about this, the difference between the soil and the way you make the wine is similar? So that's the reason why it's so interesting in terms of terroir between Perrier, Bel Air, Lavaux Saint Jacques. What's the difference in
Yeah.
terms of the soil and the exposure and the age of the vines?
Yeah. First of all, I would say my wine they have no makeup, so it's reason why maybe you can. It's very evident, but I can say that it's recurrent. We have a terroir effect every year on Bel Air, Lavaux Saint Jacques, Perrier. Of course, it's dressed differently, but so Perrier is. You can see maybe you have the map. Perrier, the soil is a mix of clay and stones, and it's quite. Within the wine, it's warm. It's below the Mazy Chambertin. The place is more hot, and the phenologic cycle of the vine is shorter. But in Bel Air it's up. It's uh, it's a cool place. It's exposition. You have less clay. You have more stones, and I would say rocks, and you are on a slope. So the wine should be different in structure, and is every year. And the Lavaux Saint Jacques they are facing the south. The soil is a mix of stones and clay, but it's on the slope too. Very different. It's more solar, sunny place, and they have different structure, and they are different. The soil is different.
So you can
In
actually
what
Philippe, you can actually maybe help us here. Like, I was looking at this map in the past, and so there is a Clos Saint Jacques in the top of the appellation here, and so
Yeah,
Lavaux Saint Jacques is a bit of both. Is that like Lavaux here and Clos Saint Jacques? So we agree that
yeah.
you don't see the Lavaux Saint Jacques in this map, right?
Uh, in fact, I see nothing because I need glasses. But,
You don't see. Okay, I was worried there was a technical problem.
Clos Saint Jacques is the famous one. It's more southeast exposition,
Right.
and Lavaux is just beside, facing really south. For example, when you are in the Lavaux Saint Jacques, when you are looking south, you see the slope with the Ruchot, with the Bel Air. So they are in the opposite position. You know.
That's what we see here.
So
Like,
you have the
the
you have
map
the you have the,
says
the
Clos Saint
grid.
Jacques.
Yeah, you have the position of the Lavaux Saint Jacques.
And Clos
Yeah.
Saint Jacques. So how is the soil there? Lavaux Saint Jacques.
Lavaux Saint Jacques first is limestone, but
So south. Yeah.
it's stony, and the stones are bigger than in Perrier. Perrier means Perrier. an amount of stones. But
Stones, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I could say sometimes in tasting that Derrière is more Chambolien, you know, more the texture is more soft.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to there's another map I want to show you. Is the map of Echezo.
Yeah,
So let's just need to find it here. It's coming up right away. Actually, I was showing it right before. So Echezo. So we were
very
at
big.
Echezo Grand Cru. Yeah. So when we say Echezo Grand Cru, it's a blend of a few of the sub appellations that you don't have your glasses, and I can tell you, we can see, we can read here a few of them.
Yeah, it's so easy to see. In fact, we are in the limit where we have Clos Saint-Denis and the starting of the trail. We are in this location here.
Okay, so yeah, we can see the Clos Saint-Denis on the map. So you like more? So you have a bit of Clos Saint-Denis. Is that the focus? Is that like the area where you source the grapes, or you have they come from different sub appellations?
Yeah, it's Clos Saint-Denis and some other ranks in the Letros just beside, you know, just as, the same area.
Right.
You see?
Yeah. The two is right above.
Yeah.
What's so what's the production that you make roughly of the Echezo Grand Cru every year?
Around 6 casks, 1,800 barrels. I'm very happy.
They're all going to Denmark?
Yes. No.
So
Trying to get.
yeah, yeah. Well, it seems that it's the more complicated task after making the wine is to see to decide where you send the wine.
Yeah.
So okay, so we talked about the quality of the grapes, obviously, and where they come from, the exposure of the terroir, the definition of the soil. Um, Obviously, it's very important when you work with in a natural way, and when you
Yeah.
work with the whole cluster. What's the? Can you explain to us like what's the next step after between the reds and the whites? After you pick up the grapes, what's the? How do you make the wine?
Yeah.
What's the originality of the way you do that?
You mean how we harvest? Yeah.
No, no. After when the grapes come to the winery.
Oh, so after the grapes were unpicked by us, yeah, it's really easy. Yeah. The speed we are harvesting is not so important, so we harvest in small boxes, 20 kilo, 15 kilos, and every hour, 2 hours, we have a small car. We are bringing the boxes to the winery. So there we have to, all the grapes were already selected, touched, seen by all the harvester. This is my wife.
Yeah, I was going to say like you don't have your glasses, but you recognize.
Yeah, yeah. I would say I'm great.
They're very cool pictures from the
But
yeah, from the One Terroir blog, also like the harvest 2000 I think it was 2010. Go ahead.
but it's very important to select cut because after when they arrive in the cellar, we just have to put them in the vat. Of course, you have to pay attention if there is some leaves releasing something like this, but it's the work is done already. It's done in the vineyards. Yeah.
Yep. The can you tell us a bit about all cluster and what it means and it will be interesting for some people who are listening to us.
Yeah, for me, I like to work this way. I like to play my music like this. Of course, it's the old way to make wine in Burgundy. For me, it's the way I prefer. So the stem they, they give to the wine the only natural source of tannin for Pinot. They regulate fermentation in temperature term and in also in a speed term. So they are very interesting, and they you can make long fermentation. And
So
after
what's the
that,
length? What's the length and average of the fermentation?
3.5 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks, from the time we put the grapes and the time we rack to the juice and press the extract. And also the temperature are not going so fast because we are pushing the cap and pushing some grapes every day. So it's not the case when you destem and when you have all the must ready. So when the fermentation is starting, you have to cool because it's like the takeoff of a plane. It's a big reaction. We don't have that because in fact we control the speed of the fermentation. Like someone is cooking, we control the fire by by pushing the cap quickly or more low, more slow. Understand?
Hmm.
And for whites too, it's interesting to press with a stem because it's important because we have a first fining process between the stem and the juice. For whites, it's important to have a first oxidasic cast because to protect them from oxygen further.
And so for the reds, so for the whites, it's all cluster, but you press it right away, right?
Yeah, of course.
But you keep the stem there during the
Yeah,
process.
we put all the grapes in the press
Hmm.
and we press like this. We
Right,
we don't destem before.
right. And that's going to help make the juice and ultimately the wine
Yeah,
more
of
like
course.
on its feet, more strong, more
The, the
structured.
juice for white is yeah, it's quite clear. Not too clear, but it's quite clear because all the grapes they are the position of the grapes in the press is like to drain. I don't know if in English you say drain, it's like a filtration. So it's interesting because and the press is very long. So you have a must with something. It's not too clear, but it's not too soap.
What are the challenges when you for the whites? Talking about the whites here, like when you press with the rafle, the stem. What's the challenge here?
Yeah, it's to because the first juice when you do this way, you can separate quickly the bad juice from the others.
Hmm.
You know, so it's very important. And after the wine, they are able to age very well
I would
because
imagine that if you, the way you press the wine, like for the grapes, like if you do it, I mean, obviously you have to do it in as soft way as possible. The risk
yeah,
would be to maybe potentially get bitterness because there will be a bit too much pressure.
no risk of too much pressure because we have the whole crusher. You can
Yeah.
you can press like this with the whole crusher. It's they are too strong. So
Okay.
it takes 1 night, 8 hours to press white
Right.
this way. It's the reason why many people they use other way, the faster way,
You have to stay up all night.
maybe.
Do after when you get the juice, what happened to this juice for the whites again here?
Yeah, well, for the time we are pressing, we put them in a vat, but when it's finished, we put it right away in a cask because we want to start the fermentation in the cask.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's true for all the wines, all the appellations.
yeah. Yeah, like I told you, we try to use the same technique, of course, for the white and the reds, to be sure what we are making is terroir wine and not technique wine. It's very important to try to use the same things.
Coming to the reds, so the reds pushing the cap down like every few hours, I would imagine,
But twice a day,
twice a day.
yeah,
Uh,
or
so
more or less given.
you're using the free run juice here. Do you also press what's left?
Yeah, in fact, at the end, when the alcoholic fermentation ended, I would say 80% of the job is done. So we rack a lot of juice. In
Hmm.
fact, it's wine, it's not more juice. And the, the, the press is almost to dry a cap, you know. So we take 20%. We are okay. Understand?
Yeah, yeah. So you obviously like so you yield what that was like pretty low at the beginning is going to be even more drastically low because of your that decision.
Yeah.
In terms of SO2, so no SO2 so far.
No SO2 in for the oliving process, so no SO2 in the vinification, no SO2 in the I would say the first part of the aging, because I would say when you press when you the press is, you have certain turbidity and it means and after this, like for red, the turbidity settle at the bottom of the cask. We call that lees. The lees, when you remove them, we call that reductive power of the wine. So till
Hmm.
the moment you have reductive power, you don't need to add sulfur. You add
Hmm.
sulfur the last months of the aging to stabilize the process and to take the photo. It's what we do.
So when
Understand?
the first what's when is the first moment that you're going to consider like using a bit of SO2 in a small
Yeah,
dose?
sometimes 5 months before racking or bottling. In fact, this moment many times is a moment where the reductive, I would say that reductive
Aspect
matter
of
of
it.
the wine
Yeah.
is finished. Is finished, and we have to put some sulfides to to keep the wine little reductive. But we need sometimes more to settle to have a clear wine. Understand?
And which period of the year are we here? Uh,
But for the white, nowadays we are aging it around 12, 13, 14, 15 months. So I would say if we're going to bottle the whites in September, October, we're now for some cuvee we're starting to add sulfur. For the reds, maybe in the after the next harvest. Understand?
mhm.
Yeah,
So in October, November.
yeah. But the tasting, in fact, we taste every month all the casks, so the tasting gives us the information.
What do you do in terms of fining or filtration?
In fact, we find with the lees. It's the reason why we age. We mix the lees with the wine to have a refining process. For the white, we have the first effect is when you press, and the second effect when you are aging. Because also we move the lees to have a nice stability. You know, but
Mhm.
even you have a proteins instability, it's not filtration which is going to help you. So you have to work on the wine. It's the part of the job we are working. It's not very easy, but we try to.
So when the wine is finished, one of the most interesting aspects, obviously, wine tasting is to taste and explain after to, for example, your customer or our customers, the differences between the vintages. Can you tell us a bit about the more recent vintages? Maybe starting with 2009, that was a pretty sunny and hot vintage, to 2011. What are the
Yeah.
similarities and the differences between those years?
Yeah, 2009 was sunny. We had heat also. We have a vintage like this. 2010 was first. It's a vintage we harvested later. It's I would say quite sunny, but with less heat. So we have more freshness, less color at the beginning, more classic. And 2011, I think it's a vintage very interesting because it has the quality of the two previous. Because you have the sunny side, but without the heat. We have something very mineral inside, very fresh, like the 2010.
In terms of the aging, how do you see the aging potential of those vintages?
Yeah, we of course because I would say if the vintage is speed, if the maturation is quickest, you are going to have the same tempo, same cinetic in the aging. So for 2009 and 2011, aging was shorter than for 2010 or 2008.
So I meet
So we have to follow.
yeah,
Yeah,
we meet a lot of people, and I just put actually in it's actually Steen Herman from Denmark, who writes the blog winehog.org, and who just wrote about your wines, and also the potential of aging for low SO2 wines. Um, talking to customers in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and people who travel around the world, people sometimes with SO2, low SO2 wines, natural wines, people are doubtful about the aging potential there. Is that a challenge for you when you go to pour your wines around people? What's your response to that? What's your experience as well?
yeah. In fact, I have no doubt about the aging of my wines, but I have no problem also with the sulfites. Just try to use it in the like a medicine, and at the moment I need it. But I would say the problem is not the to sulfite or not sulfite. It's the wine. I, I think I'm not promoting an ideology or some special ideas. I try to I try to work with what the modern world gives us, the knowledge. So I think we can make wine with very low rate of sulfur, because which is important. So in wine, it's not only the sulfur; it's how the wine is made. And I told you before the potential of the wine. It's made of proteins, a lot of proteins, who help him to to, to age.
So you would say, and what's your in terms of the wines you made in 2003, 2004? You said that you had some 2004 left. Um, how do they taste today?
Yeah, I've tasted them in Japan, 203, 202, 204, 205. I would say with the 2003, I'm very surprised because they have a new life now. Of course, not the big vintage, but at the beginning they were very soft, very creamy, very. And nowadays they have another life because they are in a reduction state, so more fresh. Because wine is a living matter,
Hmm.
and they keep all the time the memories of what they are made, and but I would say the vintage like 2003, 2005, 2007, 2009. I mean vintage with some precocity with heat. They are immediately, quickly more easy for people, but they need time to find their balance. Another vintage like 2004, maybe better, of course, 2008, 2010, more classic, with less color, less sex appeal. I mean, at the beginning, but after they are better stability. Yeah, it's what I check. But all the old vintages I made, I told you, they were okay, no problem. Very, I was very happy with that.
Does it make a difference in terms of how you ship the wines? Like you working a lot with Denmark and like again like in Japan, do the Japanese prefer like the lower in alcohol vintages?
I think, but I sell a lot of wine in Brazil, and they have also some habits with strong wine. So I think this kind of taste and more linked to culture and to people, and maybe where they are today in their taste, or it's like in music, you can change. It's more linked to people, but of course, many countries are more. But Italy too, they like Burgundy, but they make strong wine.
It
So
seems that people like when they have allocations of your wines, they want to keep it. So I'm sure that they keep ordering, and the differences between vintages is actually one of the appealing part of the.
yeah, they keep the wine, they drink it.
So talking of Japan,
Yeah,
and reading about the wines. So you used to make some Beaujolais Nouveau, right?
yeah, it's a tradition. We for the importer, we make them a gift. We made just some bottles for them for a long time. It was in fact the beginning. It was a way to make something with my uncle.
Yeah.
People that they go to fish, some others they go on the play. We were making wine
So it's a way
together. So
to
it
stay
was,
connected and work together on the same project.
yeah, just a small thing. It was not really business. It was some more to please the importer and to be happy to do it together too.
And that was
So
also that you don't make a Beaujolais Nouveau anymore, right? I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah.
no,
And you also made some Cornas at some point.
yeah, at the beginning, yeah.
It's interesting because people like
This time
tell us about
I
like does he still make Cornas? You once have been traveling and people have been keeping some bottles, so you see them today.
yeah. At the beginning, I was established and I had more time, and for me, it was very interesting to make Syrah and some philosophy than Pinot. So
Is
that's
it
it.
something that you would like to go
Now I
back to,
stop.
or it's the past?
No, because I am very focused here now, and I have a lot of things to
Right.
do.
That was actually the time also when you had like two or three facilities to make the wines, store the wines. Can you tell us a bit about that period of time? It's today you acquired a few years ago this property like right next to the Bonn train station where you might sit right now. Um,
Yeah,
it used to be owned by the Monti family. How was it before? Like, what was the?
yeah,
It seems that and they were not just like a few blocks apart. Like they were like miles apart. Like one with the Sabre winery, one with Michel Couvreur, the whiskey producer. Um, that was
Yeah,
that was fun,
yeah.
but that was you want to get out of it. That was like a nightmare for you. That was how do you see it?
Yeah, at the beginning I was making the wine in Java Chambertin, and I was aging the wine in Michel Couvreur cellar till 2006. Yeah, it was just because he likes my wine, and he liked my wine, and he want to help me just like this. For some, it was different because it was we made the wine from them for their vines in their cellar. It was allowed.
And what I imagine that's a challenge in terms of and for example, the native yeast that you're using, like coming from one cellar to the other, how did you manage uh, to work that out?
In fact, the native yeast they came from the vines, the
Right.
soil.
Okay.
Of course, you have still in the cellar, but they are mostly Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So when you use the native yeast, you have Saccharomyces cerevisiae, of course, but they are working at the end because in the beginning, the first step, the fermentation, it's other species which are working.
So that's the fact that not having the same cellar doesn't really make a difference, mostly.
Of course, it's important to have a good cellar, and now I'm very happy. But, it's more linked to the problem you have when you have to change of place every time, and also when the size of your cellar is not adapted with your production. That's sometimes a big
Right.
problem. Not today for me.
So there's one thing we didn't talk
Uh,
about. Go
Maybe
ahead.
we have to finish
Yeah,
because
your wife is waiting for you, and
my
yeah,
kids
and your kids, and well,
my kids are
it's
waiting.
appropriate because we're going to talk
With,
about food and wine pairing. What It's a lunch time for us and dinner time for you. How can you make us salivate
yeah,
and get even more excited about your wines?
salivate. Yeah, many wines which are more mineral, well, coming from more stony slope, something like this. Even red, they are something they could match quite well with seafoods, raw shrimp, uh, even some fish like meat, tuna, like this. It's, the other one is with meat. It's really they match with many foods.
You're traveling.
In fact, Burgundy wines they are made to be drink. They can match with all, but for example, the white, the Merceau, you can have with roasted chicken, you can have with many things.
Always the most one of the most fun experiences in your travels recently in terms of food and wine pairing.
Yeah, the most fun experience was many years ago in Verona, Italy, when the Italian friends they served me raw shrimp of Sicilia, the red one,
Hmm.
with my I think it was Nuit Saint Georges, José Bel Air, and I was very surprised because you can expect that in Japan, but not in Italy. And I would say it was a very good combination. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Philippe Pacalet. It was
Thank you to listen my English.
it was really fun to listen to you, and I encourage everyone to have more questions to send those questions my way. We can send it your way. It was really fun, and again, like I was saying at the beginning, it's a pride, one of the biggest pride of an importer to be able to work with your wines, and people love them, and for now, and I think for a long time. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you too for to help us to drink